is not like this game. No one really has a defensive advantage too well, so I am going to be able to trade over and over again with roaches versus roach hydra.
Now that's an interesting thing that you're saying, that there is no defensive advantage, or at least not a noteworthy one, and something that I would probably try to contest if I felt like my logic stood a chance against a pro player's logic, but of course it does not. But of course,
in the next battle, I am going to wait for a couple of more infestors with full energy.
Alright.
Or fungals. I want to get just a couple more fungals, but I'm going to be going now.
And of course, ZvZ very positional. I don't know if I'm hearing stuff die, if I'm hearing stuff burrow. And you did burrow your infestors in GTFO, as the saying goes.
It's also, if you can get some spare units, like small squads, you can go around and do multi-pronged attacks, especially on his third and things like that.
Right.
As the minerals start drying up in my bases, like my main and my natural, I can start transferring to the gold in my fourth.
What's with this taking the gold? Is this because you feel like you have map control, or is this a normal move for you that you would make regardless of the game situation?
It's pretty much regardless of the game situation, unless I feel like I'm pretty far behind. In ZvZ, anytime you're stronger, you can pretty much just kill them because there's not really a real defensive advantage here. So I can just kind of take the gold, because if he's strong enough to kill my gold, he can pretty much kill the other bases as well.
Two-pronging him hard here.
Yeah. Actually, I have three, because I burrowed my infestors that battle, and
totally missed that.
I moved them to burrow through. I'm gonna back out here, and I feel like these attacks did put him pretty much all in here, so I'm gonna just go as defensive as possible. I probably should not have attacked with my main army after what happened, after I did so much damage on his natural and his third.
So if you can just clean up this army, do you feel like you won the game?
Yeah, I do feel like he's definitely all in. So I feel like I pretty much am going to be able to clean up this army. I'm going to have to sack my main, but even with that sack, I feel like I'm still
even notice as you
a
killed
lot
both
on my
those
side.
hatcheries. Yeah, he's in trouble, for sure. Turned out to be a very nice game, in my opinion. Still macroing hard. And there's the GG. You're infested. You're still managing to micro those infestors a little bit at a time.
Yeah, I shouldn't have attacked him because the two attacks there I attacked before I sent in my army, and since they did so well, I feel like the burrowed infestors on his third plus the 6 roaches on his fourth did put him kind of all in where I should not have attacked with my main army as well. I should have just kind of defended with that army.
All right. Well, I think that was a really nice game. Thanks to Shui. Put up a good show there. So my question for you after that game is, at what point does the Tier 3 tech come into play? When do we hit Hive, and when do we start thinking about Broodlords?
I feel like unless the maps are such that, or the game plays out such that it's hard to attack, because, you know, like, especially on a map as open as Metal, and if both people don't have a lot of spine crawlers, like how the early game went, you know, there is so little of a defensive advantage that I feel like it's pretty hard to transition into any kind of Hive tech, just because if you start trying to transition to a Hive tech like Broodlords, and they just keep getting, you know, a 200 food, you know, Roach Infestor army and attack, I just feel like eventually you're just gonna die before you get any kind of Hive tech out. I mean, the only ZvZ, I feel like it's very rare for like a super late game to come where you have, you know, Ultras and Broodlords, and I feel like it's largely unexplored as well. But I have played some late game ZvZ, and I feel like Ultras are not the way to go if you were fighting a Roach Hydra army. I have had games where I've gotten Hive and things like that, and I feel like Broodlord Infestor is just a way stronger combo to use against Roach Hydra. Just adding in Broodlords to your Roach Hydra and Infestors and things like that.
Yeah, I do feel like the Broodlord is kind of the ultimate Zerg unit in the case of the mirror match, if nothing else.
Yeah, and as you start getting one of the huge things about Broodlords is they just scale extremely well with the melee attack upgrades. So pretty much almost any time I'm going to be using Broodlords, I'm going to be switching out from the missile attack into the melee attack upgrades. Even if I'm only using Broodlords and not Ultras and Zerglings and Banelings, just because going from 4 to 5 on Broodlings is way bigger than like 12 to 13 on Hydras, especially if some units have base armor or armor upgrades, like 1 or 2 armor. They can go from like 2 to 3 damage or 3 to 4, and it's like a 50% damage increase. It's just huge. Also, especially if I'm starting to get Broodlords anyways, and getting the melee attack upgrades, a lot of times late game I'll actually be switching into Zerglings, Speedlings, just because when I have all those high techs like Broodlords and Corruptors and Infestors, I'm pretty much, I feel like it's pretty beneficial for me to just spend all my gas on those units. And since Zerglings cost only minerals, and since you're getting the melee attack upgrades anyways, I feel like almost always the best thing is just to switch back into Zerglings at the late stage of the game.
Fantastic.
Out from the Hydra.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think Broods are awesome, super late. I think Ultras are terrible, super late. And I think in general that I agree with everything you're saying. So we're about to go run another one here on Lost Temple. This is certainly a map where Hatch First is viable, if not the map where it's most viable.
For sure.
With the only possible other exception being Shakuras. So before we start it up here, is there anything in your thought process that is different going into this game than in the Metalopolis match?
There's ZvZ is so much about early game, just because Zerg is the most like explosive, dynamic race at the start. So almost most games won't really get that far. And as far as the early game goes, Lost Temple's pretty similar to Metalopolis. It's actually a bigger advantage on Lost Temple than Metal to hatch first. It's a little bit easier to defend. The choke is even narrower and things like that. So I mean, I am again aiming to hatch first. The third is a little bit harder to take, so Lost Temple might be, as you start transitioning, instead of taking a super quick third, you might go up to safely, 45 to 50 drones and it might be, 2 base Roach aggression versus 2 base Roach aggression if it gets to that point, where after you get a couple batches of Roaches, like 20, 25 Roaches, you might go kill the gold, the rocks and the gold and slowly take a third. But it's not going to be kind of like go to 75 drones, then make roaches. It'll probably be more of like go to 50 drones, then make roaches, then take a third and go to 75.
Okay, so it's not so much that you're going to approach it in the sense of all-inning off of 2 bases. It's just you're going to maybe treat it a little bit like a ZVP, where you hit kind of a mid-game poke timing, not necessarily a mid-game attack and win timing, and expand behind that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Although, yeah, I almost never do that ZVP, but yeah, kind of.
Okay. We'll say maybe machine-style ZVP then.
All right.
All right, so if you're ready, we'll fire this one up.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Good luck, have fun. GG. And I think after this we'll probably have you play one for us on Zelnaga so we can sort of see your approach to these maps that aren't necessarily the safest for hatch first.
Yeah, sure. It's so rare to get 6 pulled and 7 pulled on maps like Lost Temple and Metal, but if you actually get close spawn, the distances are close enough that I feel like you'll probably die to a 6 pull or 7 pull going hatch first.
You know what, that was something I meant to ask you about at the start of the previous game. I can remember talking to Rhett about this, and Rhett plays over on the Korean ladder, and he's kind of famously been a little bit vocal about how non-standard it can be and how Zerg kind of has it rough because of all the cheeses that are out there. And in my conversations with him, he said that he loves to go 15 hatch, but it's really easy to just get gayed by 6 pool, 7 pool, 9 pool baneling stuff. How do you feel about that? And do you feel like it does it ever change the way you think about going hatch first?
The thing is, I feel like if I don't go hatch first on these maps, you would fall so far behind doing like a standard speeding expo, or a speeding baneling bus. Well, speeding expo won't really put you too far behind versus hatch first, like the game, like last game. But if you're gonna go, speeding baneling all in, you definitely don't stand any chance. What was I gonna say? The only thing you're really worried about is, an extremely early pull, like a 6-7 pull, things like that. And if you're actually too worried about that, you could just go ahead and send a drone scout very early at 9 to the close positions. You can actually kind of hold 6 pull, 7 pull on some spawns, even going hatch first. One of the patches, maybe like 2 patches ago, they made drones, drone AI a lot better, so it's a lot easier just to go ahead and fight them. In this game, I think he went hatch first as well, and I will be going a little bit different. I will be actually getting a gas before a spawning pull, since he went hatch first as well. It's kind of the opposite concept, like versus one base, you kind of, just want to get a big drone advantage, but getting a faster Zergling speed upgrade in hatch first mirror is going to give you a pretty big inherent map control at the start. And since you're not really worried about getting Zerglings out ultra early, especially he went hatch first as well, I saw, so I can just actually get a gas before the pool. Anytime you want to go speedling, you kind of get gas before pool.
Does this create one of those dynamics where both of you are going to make a lot of speedlings?
It doesn't have to, but if you're not, you pretty much are going to be making spine crawlers, a lot of spine crawlers. There's some extremely strong openings. If you both go hatch first, and you actually have it optimized where you go gas before pull, you can do some extremely strong attacks. I'm probably going to be doing one here, just because any kind of Zerglings you make past their inherent defensive advantage, especially early game when the battles are speedling versus speedling, things like that. There's no rally disadvantage, not really. Speedlings get to the other guy's base so fast,
Right.
So as long as you have enough speedlings to beat his one queen or advantage, then any speedling you make, he has to kind of match anyways. So I don't feel like it's really that possible to get too big of an economic advantage, even if I'm not droning up. If he drones up too hard, I feel like I'd probably just die if he makes